¿Qué tan amigos o haces bendiciones?
Amen, amen. This is Youth Sparking the Revival. It is such a blessing to be back here in the booth with the guys. This is Ruben Vega. We got John in the house and we got Damien in the house as well. Whoop, 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 whoop. What a blessing it is to be back here again, guys. After what could have been a long week, but you know what? We have made it. John, tell me a little bit about your week, man.
It's been an amazing week so far. I know that Damien and I were finishing our classes this week. It was the first kind of down week we've had. So it's nice. I've been doing some extra
so I'm excited to just working on some things that I've got for this upcoming semester. But what about you, Damien?
I just been resting.
Yeah.
I just been not doing much. Just kind of like taking a breather from like the hustle and bustle of all the classes that I've taken so far. So it's actually really nice just to have sort of nothing to do for a good while.
That's awesome. How about you, Ruben? How have you been?
Yeah.
Doing well, man. Doing well. We had our youth Christmas party the last Friday,
yes,
all the way into Saturday. I mean, we had youth that ended up leaving. We had a small little group that ended up leaving. What time did we end up leaving? Well, I said we, but what time did y'all end up leaving? Like at 6? 5:30? 5?
On Saturday? I
Right.
think around like 5:30.
It was like around 5:30.
So you know what? It was awesome. We had a good time. That was the first thing that I asked you guys when you guys came in. Damien said that he ended up getting a little bit annoyed at us because we were making too much. Making too much noise. He was trying to sleep. I mean, I don't know, guy. John, you even said it yourself, man. Didn't it look like, you know, he was falling asleep on the couch with his mouth open? Like he was having a good sleep, right?
I was having a good sleep the next day.
Yes, you did. You got some good beauty rest. I'll say that on that next day, on Saturday.
Man, look, guys, like I am not a person to how can I say, to promote or to applaud drinking energy drinks. But I'm not gonna lie to you, like that entire weekend from Friday all the way to Sunday, Monday, like yesterday, man, I probably drunk about 3 of them. Not including all the sodas.
You even asked me to go get you one when you were cooking eggs. You're like, can you give me that energy drink?
That was in the morning. That's the crazy part.
I was like, dang, bro. But then again, you guys were up until like 5 o'clock screaming every 5 minutes. So.
We went to bed. John, we went to bed at what time? 6?
Yeah, we went to bed at 6.
We went to bed at 6, and then we ended up waking up at 8.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was on we were on 2 hours of sleep.
Props to you guys. Props to these humble leaders of our youth, willing to sacrifice their sleep for the sake of the youth, for their protection and all that stuff. Props to them.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. It was a blessing to be able to spend some time with the youth. You know, get out of the normal routine of. You know, it just being at, you know, everything being done at church. You know, we also incorporated a youth service. You know, our youth services are normally every first Saturday of the month. We normally do it at 7. So we actually were able to incorporate that with our youth service, something short. So it wasn't anything, too much. But, you know, we make adjustments. We learn a few things because we were just all excited to get into the games, and the food was good. Shout out to Wifey.
Food was good.
Shout out to those who brought out the desserts. John and his
John's
brownies.
Oh
Man,
my gosh! Y'all need some brownies? Go to John. Things are moist.
In fact, John,
nice.
what I'll do is I'll buy them from you, right?
Yeah.
Tell me your price, and then I'll just upcharge $5 on top.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And it's not $5 on top of the batch. I'm gonna upcharge $5 per piece of brownie for every. They're that good, guys.
Oh my god!
Thank you.
All right.
Glory to God.
They're that good.
That'll be the next youth
tycoon
bake
we
sale.
have here.
You said what?
So that, no, you go first.
No, I mean a business tycoon we have here. He's like,
I was gonna say that'll be for the next youth bake sale.
oh yeah, oh, yeah.
Everybody's gonna be calling in. Hey, for the love of money is the root of all.
It's very true. It's very true.
Oh my goodness. No, but guys, you know what? Listen, we do a lot of things with the youth. We like to spend time. We like to get out of our comfort zones, especially, you know, in a time where unfortunately it seems like we can never get out of our our homes. You know, now, thankfully, we're able to congregate a lot more, do a lot more things, but it was such a blessing to be able to spend time with absolutely everyone. And with that being said, we would love to continue to be able to do it again. Hopefully next year. I have Ricardo Peña. He is joining us on the live. Ricardo, shout out to you, my man. Unfortunately, he is not able to make it with us on the booth, but we got you here in our hearts, boss. We appreciate you for joining on and continuing to support. Ricardo says John asked for 20%.
Oh my gosh,
man! So he's gonna charge me. He's gonna charge me for the brownies and charge me royalties. Good lord!
There you go.
Vanessa's also joined on. What a blessing. Karina says, "Hey, God bless you guys. Thank you as well for joining on, Karina. God bless you too." But yeah, man. So this weekend was great. It was a lot of fun. Sunday the pastors, they celebrated 17 years of pastoring in our church. And so, it's such a blessing to know that we have pastors that are so dedicated, and not just dedicated to the ministry, but, I speak for myself at the very least, at least that he's so dedicated to making sure that each and every person is okay. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, he is the epitome of what they call the spiritual father. At least he has been in my life, and so we're so grateful for that because, I know it gets exhausting. I know it can get exhausting, having, going through life itself for yourself, but also having to, cater and worry about others. And so, it's such a blessing to have someone that does it without asking anything, anything back, and so, tonight we want to honor our pastors, Pastor Ángel Maestre y Pastora Merari Maestre, our First Lady as well. But yeah, so like we said, you guys are listening to 97.3 WMFJ Oasis de Bendice. No, I could do it better. I'm going to try a little bit later.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I didn't like that one.
Okay.
But you guys are listening to XVU Sparking the Revival. If you guys want to join in, you guys want to mention any kind of comments, testimonies, opinions about our topic of discussion for today, please make sure that you download the apps, right? You can listen in on the Apple App Store, Google Play Store. You can call in at 706-793-8600. You can also follow the Facebook pages. You guys can follow the Facebook pages. You'll see our lives there, and you guys can join in live. Okay, you guys can join in live. You can talk about what we're talking about, and so you guys can join in and just give us your opinions. Before we get in, the last announcement that we have is that we wanted to say thank you to our sponsors. XVU Sparking the Revival is sponsored by Miracle Nissan, Miracle Toyota, Miracle Chrysler, Miracle Jeep dealers of the CSRA. It's also sponsored by Cricket Wireless and also the lawyers Karen and Jorge. They're here for absolutely any deals with accidents and immigration. So if you guys have absolutely any issues, any problems, anything that you guys need to get resolved, please make sure that you guys reach out to Karen and Jorge, the lawyers that are here to be able to serve you, the Latino community, and also the American Latino community here in the CSRA. Now, guys, the topic of discussion for today. This is something that we got together a few weeks ago. John sent this out. And with that being said, we are going to be speaking about the next steps after you become a believer or a follower of Jesus. John, can you tell me a little bit about what we can expect, what it should look like for those who just accept Christ for the first time? And this is something interesting and something important because we're going into a new year, right? And when we're going into a new year within the next, 9 days, 10 days, you know, we always set these things called New Year's resolutions.
That's right.
Yep.
Right? And so this next series of topics, you know, are very, very important for you guys to be able to establish on this new year. So, John, what does it look like when you first become a believer and a follower of Jesus? What should we expect?
I think it's interesting that you point that out because it's important when we have New Year's resolutions, we set goals for ourselves for the rest of the year. And when we're looking at the next steps that we need to follow as new believers or followers of Jesus, there should be goals that we have in mind. It's not often talked about, but there should be goals that we have in mind once we become a new believer in Jesus. So if you're someone who's listening in right now and you are a recent follower of Jesus, like you've just come to know him, you've just come into a relationship with him, you've just accepted him into your life, we're so happy to have you as a brother and or sister in Christ. And there's some helpful information we just want to put out to y'all tonight. And so the first thing that we would encourage you all to do is to get connected with a community.
Yes.
Get connected with a community. There's something that's a central theme throughout all of the Bible, and that's something I think is important that we have to remember as believers, whether we've been believers for many years or not long at all. We have to gather and we have to commune with one another.
Yes.
If you're looking for a biblical example of what that would look like, we could look all throughout the book of Acts, where it talked about how the believers gathered together and shared one heart and one mind, fellowshipping with one another and constantly praising the Lord. And I'm personally thankful for what community means in my life as a believer. But what's some information that y'all think would be important for people to know as new believers joining a community of believers?
I think for me, sometimes that I see is that, or sometimes that I expected, it was a little mistake that I made, or I guess that a lot of people make, is that when you come into Christianity, when you come as a new believer, you expect yourself to be changed immediately, and everything's supposed to be like roses and rainbows, and like everything's supposed to be peachy now, but it doesn't always work like that. It usually doesn't. People are still people. People are always at different walks of life, and you're not going to be changed immediately, and therefore the people around you aren't going to be like perfect. We're still all in the same boat. We all just are trying to move towards the common goal, which is to be more like Christ. But some people are at different stages than others. So I guess sort of not expecting everybody to be perfect, because nobody is. They still aren't, even though they're Christian. And some people may act like they're perfect because they're Christian, and that's just not how things should be. That's one thing I think of.
What about you, Ruben?
You know, what I like is, or the way I like to think about it, or maybe would go about it, I wish I would have gone about it, right? Is maybe kind of have like a buddy system.
Yeah.
Right? So, for instance, and for those of you who are in the military or who have gone through the military and know a little bit about this more than me, you can set up going into the military with a friend, right? And it's called that buddy system, right? You go through basic, potentially even go through tech school, just depending on your job, you know, and you go through it the entire process. And why is that so important? Why would that even matter? Why? Because, I mean, for the first time, this may be where you've left home for the first time, right? It helps you not just emotionally, but physically. It pushes you forward, you know? And I think when I think about the buddy system in a spiritual sense, right, I think it's important to find yourself someone, right, that believes in you, right, that you can push each other, right? And I think it's important, right, that, and that's why the word calls us to be equally yoked, right?
That's right.
Because we want to, you know, birds of a feather flock together, and that's kind of also why you also have to be careful with the buddy system at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The buddy system has to be somebody that's going to edify you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to be careful with getting into what you're used to, what your norm is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are other believers as well that, just like, you know, Damien had mentioned, that they're in their different walks of life, you know. Not only that, but some maturity is different in others, whether it's mental maturity, spiritual maturity, and so on and so forth. And so I believe it's important to have someone that can push you in your spiritual maturity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say hinder, but you don't want to get comfortable in your spiritual maturity.
Yeah,
that's right.
Especially when you just came to you just found Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think that's important too, because when we're talking about following Jesus, there's a specific passage that came to my mind as I was prepping for tonight, and that passage is John 14, verse 23. And it says, Jesus answered and said to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. And so when we're talking about following Jesus and keeping his commandments, keeping his word, and following what he tells us to do, I think that's such a vital part about being a new believer, is finding that community of believers to be able to surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
Because like what y'all been saying, Christianity is a journey with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process of growth. And the thing is, we can't go throughout a process alone without having some other people there to support us.
Yeah.
And I believe that's totally led by the Spirit, how that
Mhm.
happens. I know that y'all have definitely been very supportive of me ever since I got to know y'all several months back. And that's something that I've been blessed by as someone who's been a believer for many years.
Mhm.
But it's especially important for new believers to have that support system. Like, for example, there's one figure in the Bible that we've talked about last week and in previous weeks, the Apostle Paul.
Mhm.
When he became a new believer, what happened? He ended up getting surrounded by the believers in the city of Damascus
Mhm.
after he received healing from being blind.
Mhm.
And what ended up happening was they spent time with him. He was able to grow spiritually before he went out. He was there, some scholars estimate, for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So having that community of believers is vital for anyone, even the most famous figures within the Bible.
Mhm.
So if you're a new believer, we encourage you to come check out some kind of community of believers so you can start growing in a body of believers together with others. Now, with that being said, you need to make sure what kind of community you're going into as
Yeah.
well. I know that we've advertised it at the end of every show, and we can even throw it in right now. We are more than welcome to come check us out here at Deansbridge Road at Oasis de Bendición. We are very happy to have a great community of believers.
Mhm.
But at the same time, make sure that if you can't get here, maybe you're listening to us on your app, maybe some other city across the nation, we want you to find a Bible-believing church, a church that preaches that Jesus is the Son of God.
That's right.
Amen.
And so we have to make sure that you're getting and being fed by a community of believers that's preaching the truth, that's preaching the word,
Yeah.
not just finding a random group of people.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I would say, in addition to finding a good, solid community of believers, is developing a substantial prayer life. What do you think, just asking both of y'all, what are some keys, do you think, to developing a sincere prayer life?
You know, there was a famous Hispanic Christian artist one time that he was being interviewed, and an interview question was, how often do you pray?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer that he gave was just so impactful. He said, how often do I pray? He goes, I am prayer.
Mm.
In other words, he prays so much. He's constantly meditating in the Lord, speaking to the Lord,
There you go.
Mhm.
that it's a part of his lifestyle. It's a part of him.
Mm-hmm.
To speak to God is already like speaking to his own wife.
Mm.
In other words, it's somewhat, for instance, you know, I can't tell you how many times a day throughout my job, that, you know, I call Vanessa and I talk to Vanessa for even just for a few minutes.
Yes.
You know, hey, how are you? How's everything? How are the boys? How's this? You know, hey, well, yeah, it's a stressful day. It's this and that and the fourth. And that's how our prayer life should be. Not that we should limit it to 1 minute or two.
That's right.
But my point is that we should have such an open relationship with Christ that we tell him, man, you know, Lord, you know, this is a stressful day. You know, I do thank you for bringing me, you know, to this point. I know that you can, you know, continue to give me new strengths. You know, I know that I can make it throughout this day. I do ask that you continue to put me in favor and in grace. You know, let your love pour out over me, and that, you know, I can continue to move forward with my chin, you know, my chin on high, and I can reflect your love. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just such a it should be such a constant thing. Now, I know that when you're just starting off, you know, it may not be that way.
Yeah.
And in fact, it may actually even be awkward.
Oh yeah.
It can be awkward. You know, it's like talking to someone that you've never met. You've come to meet them, right? It's like Damien and I just meet last Wednesday. You know, I'm not gonna go up to him next Wednesday and give him a big old profound hug. And Damien, I love you, man. I love you, Damien. Damien, Damien. You know what I'm saying? Like you start to warm up to it now. Now, and what I'm saying with this is that, you know, when you're developing your relationship with Christ, you're gonna develop. You know, you're gonna develop how you speak to him. What works, where works for you.
It's true.
Because not everything is to be done in public.
That's right.
Not everything is to be done out loud either. You know, and it's all a process. It's all of a part of a process. You know, and it's also understanding that it's not us just talking to air.
Yeah,
that's right.
Right? That's why it's a conversation. And a conversation involves two people responding to each other. You know, and so it's being, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
It's being willing to have your spiritual ears open when he responds.
I was going to say, the verse that came to mind when you were saying all that was 1 Thessalonians 5:17, where we're commanded to pray without ceasing. I think that's something that's so important about developing a consistent and sincere prayer life, is by saying what you said. It's finding the time in and throughout our day to be able to just say, God, this, God, this, God, just constantly going to him, because we have access to him. That's the beautiful thing about what Jesus did for us. So we could have open communion with him directly all throughout the day. It wasn't so that way we could just say, like, okay, well, I'm only going to pray to him for like 2 seconds, and then I'll keep going with my day. But what were you going to say, Damien?
I was just really going to say, just finding consistency in your prayer life. Like, I need to develop a prayer life. Well, I need to develop a life, and a life is sort of an amalgamation of habits and things that you do constantly throughout the day, or every day, or every week. Like, your life may consist of you eating every day, going to church regularly twice a week or more than that, or even less than that, and just doing things in a routine, like sort of getting the routine of praying, not just making it so that it's just a flat out routine, but you actually learn, this is what works for me, and this is where I can fit this into my time, and then I actually develop from there.
I would love to touch up on that in just a moment. But for everyone that is listening, we want to thank you first for listening in live through either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. If you're listening in through 97.3 WMFJ Oasis de Bendice, we thank you for listening in through the radio station. Be careful while driving out on this rainy night. Okay, so make sure that you guys are very careful. You guys are vigilant. We cover absolutely everyone with the blood of Christ and with angels to protect them and to guide them while they are driving. With that being said, one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch up on that is that you mentioned kind of like setting a routine on eating, right? But you don't just stop eating. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're always gonna eat, but, and this is coming from, a big dude.
Okay.
Short in stature, but big in the width, right?
Great in the eyes of the Lord. That's the way to see
Hey,
it.
oh,
That's-
man, John,
there
John,
go,
you just
there
melt
go.
my heart, John.
No, there you go.
You
There
just
go.
melt my heart, John.
There you go.
you just melt my heart, John. But
He always knows what to say.
right?
There you
He's
go.
too quick with it. But no. So, it's also knowing. It's creating a healthier habit.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you can eat junk food, but just because you're eating junk food is not healthy.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying is creating a habit that when you find yourself, let's say, not doing anything,
Mhm.
right? For instance, one of the biggest things that I found myself doing, especially, within, my job, I'm going on to 2 years in I keep saying my new job, but, I'm now going on to 2 years. It's crazy, man.
Mhm.
Wow.
Like,
That's awesome.
guys, if you guys think
That's
about it,
crazy.
we're going on to 2 years in this pandemic, and I started right before the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
That's insane.
January 6th is when I started.
Good grief.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? Like, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
right,
2
that's
years in
crazy.
this pandemic.
Mhm.
And you don't notice it. Like,
Mhm.
it's like, wait, this just started last year. Well, yeah, it's about to be a whole nother year. So
Yeah.
Right.
you know,
That's crazy.
It's true.
And like before, just like a quick side, before we thought it was gonna never end. Like, oh my gosh, 2 years. And
Right.
It's like, whoa, that's way too long. And now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's been
Right.
a whole.
And so it's my trip, my commute to work is an hour
Mhm.
and an hour back.
Mhm.
And guys, I like to vibe. I like to listen to music, but it's not
That's right.
always vibing. It's not always listening to music. It's not always thumping the bass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've found myself that many times. I'm listening to preaching. I've even found myself just to be in silent, especially with you guys know how horrible my phone. I am with charging my phone, so my phone is like always dead, either that or on 20%.
Yep.
So you guys know I'm horrible on texting back, and it's 9 times out of 10 because my phone's dead. But with that being said, I've learned to take those moments and pray,
Mhm.
meditate, conversate.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's creating that habit of, ooh, you know what? I'm hungry. I could have this bag of chips, or I could eat a fruit salad.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
And it's kind of like the story of the young men
Mhm.
who challenged the soldiers
Mhm.
to eat. Man, what is it? The 40-day fast. Y'all
Are you talking about Daniel?
Yeah,
When
are you
he
talking about
challenged-
Daniel?
They went on like a green diet versus the
correct, like
meat.
green,
Yeah.
but like it was nuts. It was
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it was nuts. It was green. I think
Mhm.
they ate fish, but no other meat.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
it was just water and all
Right.
that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Compared to everyone else, which meat, red meat and all that stuff, that's still supposed to build muscle. That's protein. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
The thing is that
Mhm.
in excess, it could also cause harm.
Mhm. That's right.
So that's something interesting to keep in mind.
Mhm.
In excess, what is meant to be good in excess can cause harm.
Mhm.
Dang,
It's true.
that's a whole nother conversation.
That is a whole nother conversation.
But my point with this is that it's important for us to, if we're truly following Christ, right, and we're trying to establish a prayer life,
Mhm.
right, let's catch ourselves and let's replace what we would normally take the time to do something else,
Mm-hmm.
and let's replace it with conversating with God,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Even if it starts off within a short amount of time, and then we gradually increase that. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. So I guess that leads me to another question I have for y'all. I think that's something that a lot of new believers and even believers who have been in the faith for a long time struggle with is distractions. What do you think is the single greatest distraction to developing a consistent prayer life? Because like for me, I'll say what mine was. It was staring at you'll have a clock that's in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
or you'll have your phone, and so you always have you'll see the time, and you're like, okay, I've got this to do, I've got this to do, I've got this to do.
Mhm.
And I heard a pastor one time give a preaching where he was talking about developing a consistent prayer life, and he said I would take the alarm clock that was on my bedside and I'd turn it around and face the wall, so I would not be tempted to even look at it. So
okay.
that's something that comes to my mind. But what do you think is the single greatest distraction, maybe for y'all, to developing a consistent prayer life?
Really is the phone.
The phone?
It's just like the social media.
I was gonna say that the phone too. Jesse and Danny Agosto, they say time.
Yeah.
Time is one of the biggest distractions, and I agree. Go ahead and finish up with the phone.
Well, because it's just like it's such an easy, accessible thing for pretty much anybody now. So it's so easy to get anything out of it. Like you don't really have to work too much just to get on the phone, just to be on social media. And every time, like I notice when things get like a little bit, like a little bit more harder to, just more difficult task, and you get kind of frustrated, you kind of just immediately check out and just go on the phone.
That's right.
It's like an easy like way just to get a hit of dopamine. It's an easy way just to like relax or just to get away from the things that are more difficult. So I know for myself, like when I have to pray and it's like I'm not in that habit of praying and it's like a really difficult thing to try to get into, but I know I need to do it, I get a little frustrated, or I'm getting like a little I encounter that resistance, so I just go straight in the phone. It's the easy way out. It's the easy exit. So I think that's the same issue for a lot of the youth, a lot of adults too. I know a lot of adults have that same issue, and that can also lead to time issues as well, because you can easily spend like a good 20 minutes on your phone, not even realize it, and then before you know it, you like kind of used up half your day just kind of on the phone, and now it's like, oh, I'm really sleepy now, I gotta go and get other things done. So you just kind of it's true. It can lead to a lot of other issues. So I completely agree. Ricardo says that he thinks that technology for this generation is a big one as well. He says that lack of discipline is also a big one. I agree. I think it's hard to have discipline, especially in the how can I say, in the step that we're in. It's being a new follower of Christ, right? It's hard to replace, right? And I think, just to answer your question to the easiest extent, and this may be a drop of a hammer, right? I think what is closest to becoming an idol in your life is your biggest distraction.
I like that. I really like that.
And I say this because it's the hardest thing to wait. Why? Because I find myself with my phone, or it used to be for me in my business, like, oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and just pray real quick. Let me go ahead and pray. And I'm still thinking in my mind while I'm thinking, like, oh, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that. You see what I'm saying? And so that is taking away from the concentration of you actually having that intimacy with the Lord. So at that point in my life, what was more important? I was putting the business over what was really important. I was giving more mind to the business than to actually having a relationship and a deep conversation with Christ. You see what I'm saying? Jesse and Danny Agosto say is that overall the enemy enjoys distracting you by making you feel that you have so much going on, when in reality giving time to God first will help you adjust. Oof. That's right. It will help you adjust your time in this world. That's deep. That's a good one. And this is honestly my testimony. This is part of my testimony. For the year of 2021, I've told you guys this, and y'all remember how the Spirit spoke to me by three logos, the Nike, New Balance, and Adidas logo. And he pretty much told me that, if I'm not the sustenance of your balance, el Espíritu me dijo, and I'm sorry because it spoke to me in Spanish, and I want to say it right and then translate it. El Espíritu me dijo que si él no fuera a ser la sustenencia de mi balance, nada más importaba. In other words, if he wasn't the sustenance of my balance, nothing else mattered. And the same thing with the Adidas logo. It looks like it's like next levels, and I'm like, man, God, I really have to go to this next level in our relationship with you this year. And he said, if you continue to go on with the same drive that you had last year, you will never reach that next level in our relationship that I want you to reach. And I said, oh my goodness. I'm like, okay, all right. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I think technology, I say technology because it takes technology goes into so many categories, right? Technology goes into the category of time. It goes into what's more important to you is society and the way society looks at you. Is that more important to you? So are you constantly going to be trying to post, upload, do this, do that? You know, are you going to revolve the time around? It's so funny, man, that I'm thinking about this. You know, there are algorithms.
It's true.
On social media.
It's true.
Yeah.
Not just YouTube. There's algorithms to Facebook. There's algorithms to Instagram. Right? And the algorithms go off of not just what you post, right? Or how many people are involved or communicate or speak on this, but also the times that you post.
It's true.
And you upload.
It's true.
So, you know, if you're, you know what, this time is separated for me to upload and for me to be uploading XYZ thing, let me go ahead and pray at such and such time so that way it doesn't go into my upload time. And I'm sorry that I'm even saying this because this might hit on somebody, hit a button, but we shouldn't be and this is literally how my life this year completely changed. We shouldn't be revolving God around our life.
That's right.
Our life should be revolving around God.
There you go.
What we should be trying to make adjustments to is, no, I have a set prayer time at such and such time. This is my moment of intimacy with the Lord.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what's going on. If they want me to go out to eat with them, they better invite me to go out to eat a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Or a little bit later. They
That's
better
right.
help. They better wait.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And that's how that should work.
Yeah.
And that's part of that discipline that Ricardo was talking about.
That's right. And I think that's important too, because like what you were saying, we have to remember as believers, our lives are not the center of attention and Jesus is just revolving around it. It works exactly like we see our solar system. The sun, at least in our case, for a spiritual sense, the SON is the center of our universe, the center of our solar system, and we're revolving around him.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have to be focused on as believers. And that's something that we should encourage new believers to realize as well, that our lives are not supposed to be focused on seeing everything go our way and our specific timing and how we think it should go, but it's sitting down and saying, Lord Jesus, you are the center of my life.
Yeah.
You're the focus of my attention. You're the focus of my day. You lead me in whatever way you want and show me how I'm supposed to move, and that's how I'm going to move. And I think we'll see some very powerful results come out of praying that type of prayer and seeking God and pursuing it out of that kind of way. Did you have something to say, Damien?
I think it was I guess to sort of segueing into a different part of the conversation, but more along the lines of now, if you're a new believer, it's you have to start.
Sorry, I had to get that in there.
If you're a new believer, it's like, you have to, one, surround yourself with a good community,
Yes.
and two, begin a good prayer life, and also begin a good begin to have a good understanding and knowledge of the word.
There you go.
And I guess all three of those sort of work in tandem. Everything works together. So having a Bible believing community that will begin to show you how to live. So like the prayer life, the habits that you'll begin
There you go.
to
Come on.
really need to develop and have an effective Christian life, and knowing how to apply that and how to knowing the knowledge and now understanding the knowledge of what the word says and how to apply that to your life now, because too many people kind of just like go in there and they're like, okay, you're a Christian now, go
true.
just kind of figure it out on your own. It's like, I don't know how to read this book. It's really confusing, and it's I don't really kind of get up on it. They kind of begin to sort of want to understand the Bible, but they don't understand it. Yeah, so it's really hard for them to understand it. So they begin to not really trust the Bible anymore. It begins to not be like it begins to be like a second thought. Yeah. And they more so trust Jesus. Like, Jesus is great, but I don't understand how his word really matches up to it.
Yeah, and that's where I want to kind of jump in with another passage of scripture. I'm glad you segued into that, because that's kind of like the last big thing I wanted to focus on as we're getting towards the end of our show is Joshua 1:9. It's a passage that says, Joshua 1:8. It says, "The book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe and do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success." And it's so important that we do know what the word says, because yes, we can establish a strong prayer life. Yes, we can have a good community, but we need to develop a strong knowledge of the word. And I think that's so important for new believers to realize, is that once you have a good understanding of the word, they'll be able to understand what it means to fulfill the commandment that Jesus left us before he ascended into heaven, which was go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. And so if we're going to learn how to make disciples, we have to first be a disciple, which kind of ties in to what we're going to be doing as a ministry over the course of next year's talking about discipleship. So if you're a new believer and you have been wondering, okay, what are my next steps? What am I supposed to be doing? I'd encourage you, pray and ask the Lord to bring someone to you to disciple you, because that's something where you will start to explore different aspects of the word, different aspects of what it means to have a strong understanding of the word, and have a strong understanding of what God wants to use you for in your ministry and reaching the world. I think it's so interesting to look at different individuals in the Bible who were discipled in the New Testament. And obviously we think about the 12 disciples, and imagine they all had these different personalities. They weren't the same. They all were coming from different parts of life. Like Matthew was a tax collector. Peter, James, and John were all fishermen, and I think his brother Andrew was one as well. I mean, you have all these different men that are coming together from different walks of life, being discipled by Jesus. And so as we're looking at what discipleship means today, what are some important aspects about discipleship that you think new believers should be aware of if they want to be discipled? And this is for both of y'all.
Okay, come again. So aspects that new believers should be aware of.
Yes, about discipleship.
About being discipled or discipling.
Both.
About discipleship, I think, we need to be sponges. I think that's something that's very important. A lot of times we want to give so much before we're ready to give, or before we've even received. That's right. A sponge, at least, unless I'm using a sponge wrong, right? Right. So
all his life he's been using the sponge incorrectly.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like one of those cereal and milk things. Do you put in the cereal first or the milk first? You know what I'm saying?
Always the cereal first.
Thank you. Yes. But so it's like a sponge. Run it under water first, then put then you put the soap on it, or the soap on the dish, and then you scrub. That's right. And it makes it suds. You see what I'm saying? No, that's wrong.
Now you have to go in there, go with this sponge dry, so then you can soak up everything as much as you can.
I don't believe you. But you get what I'm saying? You first have to receive like a sponge to then be able to give. You can't give, you can't wash something away if you don't have the soap, quote unquote. You see what I'm saying? You can't help bring someone to Christ if you first don't have Christ inside you. Dang, man, I'm sorry. I'm dropping.
No, you're good.
That's it. But and again, you can't. And this goes into trying to disciple out into the world. We spoke about this before. Atheists and non-believers many times know the word better than what a lot of Christians do.
That's true.
Why? Because they want to prove the word wrong. My grandfather, that's how he converted. And I'm talking about a very strong man of God, someone that I look up to and I cherish very deeply. But that's how it was. My grandmother converted first. She accepted Christ first, and he was, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna read the word to tell you why this doesn't make sense. And it was within reading the word that, you know, God transformed him, and
That's right.
he experienced
That's awesome.
amazing things.
That's awesome.
You know.
Glory to God.
But with that being said, a lot of times it just, you know, like my grandfather, they go in and they study to try to prove us wrong. So we have to be very careful. We have to choose battles very carefully.
That's true. What do you think, Damien?
I need a refresher of the question.
No, that's fine. So, what are some important things that you think new believers need to be aware of
Oh,
about discipleship
okay. That's what I was gonna say.
before they become discipled?
I think going on piggybacking off of Reuben, is staying humble, because like I guess sort of like I said earlier, that if you're some people start to think that, oh, now I'm a Christian, now I know everything, now I'm like on a moral high ground more than anybody else, but you can still be doing the same things and you still got a lot of work to do. It's not like you're like immediately changed, and that could happen, but more times than not, it doesn't really happen immediately. So it's like, if you find a discipler and you're the disciplee, then you should be humble with God first and foremost.
That's
that
right.
God knows everything, and He knows what He saved you from, and like all those things. But knowing that, okay, I'm learning from what they know, and they know more than me about this. So I'm not gonna try to like expect them to cater to my needs or do all these things. It's like I need to sit down and listen to what they have to say, and sort of come into humility about what they're teaching me, because they know more about about this than I do. And also sort of being humble as a teacher as well, and knowing that everybody has gone through something, and it's not that you can just sort of throw them around like a drill instructor.
Yes.
Every day, like, people have issues, they have like things they need to work through as well. So it's like being humble in the sense that, I'm not going to I'm not just going to expect you just to get everything. It's like I need to give you time to like sit down with it and be patient with you and all these things. So I think humility on both sides.
I think another thing is when it comes down to being the disciple or discipling. I think it's important to understand that you are not meant to disciple everyone.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times as a leader, for instance, me as a manager, my job is to delegate jobs or work to the right people that I know can get the job done. Not that the other person can't get the job done. They can get forced to get the job done. But will it get done efficiently to the best extent that it possibly could? And that's how you have to look at it when it comes to being a disciple. Can I really give this person the tools that they need? You see what I'm saying? Can you disciple a drug addict when you don't understand the life that led that person to becoming a drug addict?
And I think that's something that's... Oh, sorry.
No,
I mean, I think that's key, because, I mean, I think that's the most important thing for those of us who've been in the faith for a long time. If we come across somebody that says, hey, I want to be discipled, and I'm like, and then it's great, like, we'll talk about it. We sit down, we go through, like, hey, what's your life experience, things like that. And we sit down and we go through those things. And then once we hear about it, we could say, okay, like, Lord, just give us discernment about what needs to happen. I mean, we should always be open to discipling people that come to us. But like you were saying, that's key. I mean, if we know that we could not relate to their life experience, or that we know that the Lord could use someone else that we know more powerfully to minister to their life, we should ultimately say, okay, Lord, with prayer, we're handing these people off to them and making sure that they know, like, they want to be discipled, and that these people will be willing to disciple them as well. But that's something I think is key, is, like you said, we can't always relate to everybody that wants to be discipled by us. And that's the thing, we have to be willing to send them to people we know that can train them up. Because I think about, like, Paul, when he would talk to...
Barnabas, right?
Yeah,
we spoke about this last week.
Yep.
Paul and Barnabas.
That's right, exactly.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. No, you take it.
Well, you know, he was pretty much just telling him, like, hey, you know, I forgot the other person, but Mark wanted to invite Barnabas to come on their journey, and Paul pretty much just told him, he was like, look, based off of the past experience, I potentially feel like, right now is maybe not the time. You can go with Barnabas if you want to go with him, but right now is just not the time. And so, what Paul did is that he reflected, right? He reflected the discipleship onto Mark, because he could see the care that Mark had for Barnabas. He had, he cared for him. He wanted to come along, and he realized, there were a few things. There were some hiccups in the road. There were some obstacles that may not be the best thing for us or the ministry right now. And, later on down the road, they all got back together, and he said, you are important to this ministry. I need you for this ministry.
That's right.
And so there's a time and place for everything. But that also comes down to even discipling for ministry placement. And I think that a lot of times as a believer in the church, we are so passionate about being in a specific place. We have to understand what our calling is.
That's right. That's right.
Not what we want our calling to be.
That's right. That's right. Come on.
Dang, man, I'm sorry.
No,
My
you're
bad,
on
guys.
point. No, you're on point.
Because I'm so sorry. A lot of times we try to push into what we want to do.
There you go.
Or what we think, and what we're doing is we're allowing our emotions to lead us rather than letting the Spirit tell us where we're needed at.
And that's one big thing that we have to make sure that we let new believers know. Like, now you have to understand, like, discern what the Spirit's telling you versus what your emotions or your own flesh is telling you, because you can get excited about a lot of things and then ascribe that to God when God never said that in the first place. He never said that you're going to be on the worship team or you're going to be a preacher. You may have to be like a more private one-on-one person for just people.
And the thing is that a lot of times the process, right? The process changes. So
There you go.
Paul could have told Mark, go with Barnabas if you'd like, right? And throughout that time, that gap, he could have gone through different ministries. It could have been serving the food, right? It could have been feeding the camels.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? Leading all the way up to, you know what? Now you're preaching.
Okay, yeah.
Now you're leading the youth. Now you're singing. Now you're doing XYZ thing.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And the reason being is because you won't always be prepared for what you are truly meant to be, or what that destiny, that plan and the purpose that God has for you. But what that does is that it builds your character. It builds you in different areas of your spiritual life to get there.
I think that's the thing. I think that goes in hand with the discipline thing that Ruben was talking about, because we see, and even David's Ricardo was talking about, because we can even see in the life of David that he started out being a shepherd. He started out being a shepherd, working and tending with the sheep and all these things.
And it's so beautiful, man. I interrupted you.
No,
I'm
just
sorry,
doing
man,
things,
but that
just
stuff
doing
is
things,
so good.
doing things daily, learning how to lead a body of individual or a body of living organisms.
That's
whether it
such
be-
a good point, man.
And then he learned how to defend himself. He learned how to learn all these skills to become a leader for, it might not even be humans, but then he does all these things, learns how to play the harp, learns how to do this, and slowly more disciplining himself or being disciplined by the Lord per se, and so that he knows what to do when it's time to actually become a leader, whether become a leader of the army and then the leader of the whole nation of Israel. And I think I saw this one guy on YouTube, and he said sometimes people just want to be like on the top. They just want to be like they want to be on the biggest part of the ministry, but they have to learn how to start sweeping. You want to learn how to learn how to be a preacher? Start sweeping. Then you develop that character and that discipline.
The thing is that we are called to, before anything, we are called to serve.
That's right. Come on.
So I think that the biggest thing, whether you're discipling or being discipled, you have to understand that we are called to serve. Period.
That's right. That's right.
Before being on the, let's say, altar, you have got to learn on how to be able to serve, how to be able to give. And not just giving or preaching. No, you have to be able to learn how to give to one another. Right? And so I think that piggyback off of you and David, man, it is so deep when you think about it, man, that David and Jesus was a shepherd himself. And it was considered to, we've spoken about this before. I'm sorry, I'm getting passionate about it. But being a shepherd was considered to be, it's considered he's a pastor over lambs.
Oh, okay.
I know you're looking at me.
I was like
that.
carpenter.
No, I thought you
He's a
said passionate.
Pastor.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah. That's okay. So yeah. But it's made that analogy because it's thought to be like being a shepherd is like the lowest of the low back then.
That's right.
It's the dirtiest job. Right? It's also one of the most dangerous jobs because you have to protect the sheep, so you have to protect them from wolves, other animals.
The lions and the bears.
Lions, bears. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And so when you think about it, it's like, dude, that him going through that prepared him to be able to defeat Goliath. Prepared him to be able to defeat thousands, tens of thousands. Excuse me.
That's right.
It allowed him to being at the low, allowed him to be the people's king. People loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they sang to him. He was it Saul?
Yeah.
Saul killed thousands and David killed tens of thousands.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he was the people's king. And so I think that's something that extremely, extremely, extremely important.
And I think that's cool because, I mean, y'all have touched on so many, like, that's the thing. It's like trying to hold it all in because we could go off on so many branches. Because, like, one that I was thinking of that's an important aspect that y'all hit on already, but I'll just reiterate it, is that discipleship in being a process is a never-ending process.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, ultimately we were being discipled by Christ, but he's going to bring us people, I believe, at different stages of our lives to disciple us in different aspects and different things to help us grow into the ministries that he's blessed us with. I mean, like, I know that there are people, Ruben, you could probably attest to this better than we could because we're both single, but I mean, like, there's a point when you want to get married and then you go and talk to married couples who are believers and you learn from them and you're like, okay, what are some things that the Lord's taught you? I mean, discipleship doesn't have to be this ominous thing that we don't know what it is. I mean, discipleship is a practice that's put into place all throughout our daily lives, even in the secular world. I mean, going to school is a form of discipleship. It's developing practices and patterns and learning about different things.
Mentors.
Yes, and having mentors.
Internships, it's the exact same thing. It's just in a secular world or spiritual world.
So my big piece of advice for those of you who may be looking to be discipled is to realize that it's not just some process that's going to be, okay, it's just this set amount of time and then I'm going. No, there are moments where the Lord is going to bring people into your lives to teach you different things about what he wants you to do and how he wants to grow and shape you into the person he's designed you to be. So yes, the three big things that we've kind of talked about, because I know we want to kind of wrap up real soon, are number one, finding a community, of a Bible-believing community that's going to start speaking the word in and over your life. Number two, we talked about developing a consistent prayer life. It's so important that you start developing a consistent prayer life, and you'll find help within that community. And third, if you are a new believer, we are so encouraging you to find someone to disciple you, because that is something that that is a place that you're going to be able to learn more about God's word and what it means to walk in his word and his commandments. But was there anything else that y'all wanted to add?
No, just when you're asking someone to disciple you, be very, very sure. I mean, I think it's important. You've established your prayer life, and so I think you should establish your prayer life and understand, again, like I had said, opening your spiritual ears so that way the Lord may guide you to who you will believe will be the best to disciple you. But and it's very important because you need to be very careful on who is speaking into your ear.
Preach.
You see what I'm saying? You need to be very careful on who's speaking into your ear. And so you can't just listen and give an ear or give mind to absolutely everyone who speaks to you. So be very careful in that aspect. But for tonight, that's pretty much all that I'll say.
Cool.
Damien?
That's pretty much all I got for tonight.
Awesome.
Amen, amen. Pastor ended up commenting. He said, 2022, year of discipleship. Amen. For each and every person who has been joining in with us in the XV Youth Chapel on Wednesday nights at 7:30. You guys know that we have been on a 21-day, or let's say 21-week plan of leading like Jesus, being a disciple. And so this is just honestly, I was speaking to John and Damien. I've also spoke to Ricardo about this, and also mentioned it to JB. It's interesting how the Lord works. Next week, the last Wednesday of the year, we are going to be having our very last class of leading like Jesus on how to be a disciple. And so I think it just works perfectly. The youth have been preparing for this for 21 weeks. 21 weeks. And so it's a complete blessing to know that we've been speaking speaking on this. We've been able to retain a lot of information, and this is the time where the youth, XV Youth Spark in the Revival, wherever you're at, you're going to be able to place this into practice. So do not be surprised if pastor starts to pull you. Yeah, I'm putting that on blast right now. But you know what? No, it's been a complete blessing. John, Damien, thank you guys so much, as always, for joining in, for giving such great insight, such great testimonies, opinions, and thoughts. Thank you to everyone who's joined on tonight, for giving their opinions, their thoughts. Jesse, thank you, Ricardo, Karina. Thank you for each and every person who has been listening in. Again, you're listening to 97.3 WMFJ Oasis de Bendice. Now, just a quick message. Remember that our sponsors are Miracle Nissan, Miracle Toyota, Miracle Chrysler, Miracle Jeep dealers of the CSRA. If you need a vehicle, do not miss out. They will get you covered. They will get you in some wheels. Now, we're also sponsored by Cricket Wireless and also the lawyers Jorge and Keren and Jorge. For absolutely any kind of issues regarding any kind of accidents or immigration, make sure that you reach out to them. They are here to serve the American, Latino American, and Latino community just for you guys. All right, thank you once again for absolutely everything. We will be having we'll be having XV Youth Chapel next Wednesday, 7:30. Come out on Sunday at 11 o'clock, so that way you can join us. We are located at 3265 Deansbridge Road here in Augusta, Georgia. And once again, this is John, Damien, and Ruben in the booth of Youth Sparking the Revival, and we are out.